All right, so with new allegations of sexual misconduct now swirling around U.S. Senate candidate Judge Roy Moore, the left and the liberal media, they're finally starting to re-examine what is their deplorable defense over the years, Bill Clinton's long history of disturbing sexual abuse allegations. It has taken almost 30 years for the left, the liberal, destroy Trump media, to finally start admitting Bill Clinton targeted women for decades with criminal impunity. Take a look at this headline from a liberal publication. A little late. The Atlantic. Bill Clinton, a reckoning. Feminists saved the 42nd president of the United States in the 1990s. They were on the wrong side of history. Is it finally time to make things right? Yes, it's beyond time. And then there's this op-ed from the New York Times that has the headline, quote, "I believe Juanita." But that's not all. Members of the mainstream media, they're even starting to realize that what Bill Clinton did was beyond disgraceful. His conduct should never, ever, ever have been defended in the first place. What do you see some of the tape we have for you tonight? Look at this tweet. Give him credit. Chris Hayes over at MSNBC. As gross and cynical and hypocritical as the right's, well, what about Bill Clinton stuff is, it's also true. Democrats and the center left are overdue for a real reckoning with the allegations against him. Take a look at what CNN's Jake Tapper had to say. Watch this.
The accusers of Bill Clinton back in the 90s were never given the credence and treated with the same respect that these women are being treated. And I think that there is something to be said about how society has evolved since then. But in addition, it's hard not to look back at that period and think, you know what, the media treated those women poorly.
Now, some of the media are coming to terms with what they did and what they said and how they covered it all up, because what they did, the things they did to protect Bill Clinton and discredit at a high level his accusers is beyond indefensible. It is shameful. Let me explain. You're not going to see this anywhere else on television. Back in 1992, during the presidential primaries, remember the name Jennifer Flowers? She went public. She revealed she had a 12-year affair with Bill Clinton. She even released taped phone conversations to deal with the allegation. What did the Clinton campaign do? They set up a war room. It sprung into action. Their job to smear and discredit Jennifer Flowers and Bill and Hillary. Then they go on 60 Minutes, lie, deny the charges, and what did they do? They attack Jennifer Flowers' character. Watch this.
She's alleging, and is described in some detail in a supermarket tabloid, which she calls a 12-year affair with you.
That allegation is false.
When this woman first got caught up in these charges, I felt, as I felt about all of these women, that, you know, they've just been minding their own business and they got hit by a meteor. I mean, it was no fault of their own. We reached out to them. I met with two of them to reassure them they were friends of ours. I felt terrible about what was happening to them. You know, Bill talked to this woman every time she called, distraught, saying her life was going to be ruined. And, you know, he'd get off the phone and tell me that she said sort of wacky things, which we thought were attributable to the fact that she was terrified.
I'm assuming from your answer that you're categorically denying that you ever had an affair with Jennifer Flowers.
I've said that before, and so is she.
I've said that before, and so is she. They were lying. And because he later had to admit during a deposition, he finally admitted during the Monica Lewinsky case that he did, in fact, have that sexual encounter with Jennifer Flowers. And then there's Hillary Clinton. That was only the beginning of her attempts to smear her husband's accusers, to further attack Flowers. Hillary Clinton told Vanity Fair, watch this, well, if we'd been in front of a jury, I'd say, Miss Flowers, isn't it true you were asked by the AP in June of 1990 and you said no? Weren't you asked by the Arkansas Democrat and you said no? I mean, I would crucify her. Really, Hillary? Crucify her? And it gets worse. In his book about Hillary, Carl Bernstein, of all people, wrote that Clinton referred to Jennifer Flowers as, quote, trailer trash, and that Clinton undertook a, quote, aggressive campaign to go after Flowers. Years later, I did interview Jennifer Flowers, where she described her affair with Bill Clinton and how she feared for her safety. Watch this.
I regret very much that I have had to go through and the country has had to go through what it has gone through in the last several years. There were times when he wanted to be intimate, when Hillary would be close by, and I wouldn't, because I was more concerned with the circumstances. I personally feel that if I had not become public when I did, even though I had not planned it, that I wouldn't be sitting here talking with you now. I think something would have happened to me. I think most of the women that have been involved with Bill Clinton have told of situations where they were threatened. My home was entered 3 times and ransacked. That was a horrible failing. That was, that was pretty darn close. My mother received a threatening phone call that said your daughter would be better off dead. So there were a lot of things that happened over the course of this time that caused me to be very concerned for myself.
And she was smeared for years, and she had told the truth. Then there's Paula Jones. She accused Bill Clinton of confronting her in a hotel room and dropping his pants and exposing himself, and worse. Watch this.
We did some small talk, and then he started kind of getting a little comfortable and trying to, he said that he loved the way my hair flowed down my back of my clothes, and he liked my curves. Then he leaned up and he pulled me up towards him, and he was going to try to kiss on me. And so then I tried to distract him again. And I thought, what am I doing? My mind is racing. I said, well, I may need to be going or something. And next thing you know, he pulled down he sat down, pulled down his pants, his whole everything, and he was exposed. And I said, I'm not that kind of girl, and I need to be getting back to my desk.
And she said that many times prior. In 1998, Bill Clinton ended up paying Paula Jones $850,000 in out-of-court settlement for her to drop her sexual harassment charges against him. And in a related case, Bill Clinton actually lost his license to practice law in Arkansas for 5 years. Not many people in the media report that. And according to the New York Times, CNN, and many other outlets, longtime Clinton ally James Carville said this about Paula Jones, quote, if you drag a $100 bill through a trailer park, you never know what you'll find. Oh, he worked at fake news CNN. Paula Jones later said that there was no way that Hillary did not know that her husband was abusing women. Next, we got former White House intern Monica Lewinsky. Bill Clinton infamously lied about having a sexual relationship with Lewinsky. Remember this.
I want you to listen to me. I'm going to say this again. I did not have sexual relations with that woman, Miss Lewinsky.
Indeed, I did have a relationship with Miss Lewinsky that was not appropriate. In fact, it was wrong.
Now, just like the other accusers, Hillary had a less than flattering nickname for Monica Lewinsky. According to a journal entry that was made public, Hillary's friend, Diane Blair, described Hillary's reaction to the Lewinsky scandal as, quote, well, she says to his credit that he tried to break it off, tried to pull away, tried to manage someone who was clearly a narcissistic Looney Tune, but it was beyond control. In an interview with Diane Sawyer in 2014, Hillary Clinton was given a chance to deny that she ever said that about Monica Lewinsky. And Clinton, well, interestingly, decided to decline a comment. Watch this. Oh, okay. Sorry, it didn't show up. Now, next is Kathleen Willey. I've interviewed her many times. She's a former volunteer White House aide and accused Bill Clinton of sexual misconduct in 1993. I have interviewed Kathleen Willey many times about this encounter. This now gets worse and worse. Watch this.
No woman should be subjected to it. It was an assault.
He assaulted you?
Yes.
He touched, grabbed, fondled, and kissed you against your will?
Yes.
And it's an allegation that is not made by one woman, it's made by multiple
Many
women.
of us.
Now, Kathleen Willey would later slam Hillary Clinton for enabling her husband's behavior. And finally, there's the most serious, the most disturbing allegation against Bill Clinton. According to Juanita Broderick, Bill Clinton raped her in 1978 when he was the Attorney General of the state of Arkansas. Take a look at this. You described a scene where he was biting on your lip, and then when it was all over, he was leaving. Said, you better put some ice on that.
Yeah, and casually put on his sunglasses and walked out the door. And I've told my friend who came back and found me that I was sitting there crying and so upset at the time. and I felt like that the next person would be somebody coming through the door to get rid of the body. That's just about how I had absolutely couldn't believe what had happened to me.
You begged them to stop.
Yes.
And during that same interview, Juanita Broderick explained why she was fearful to come forward to tell her story. Watch this. People say, well, you waited 20 years. Do you regret waiting, and why did you wait?
No, I don't regret waiting, because I don't think it would have been received any better at that time than it is now. I don't think it's anything anybody wants to hear, that the Attorney General of the state of Arkansas did something like this. No one wanted to hear that, and it was my word against his.
Why did you originally deny it, considering this was a legal matter?
Did you see what happened to Jennifer Flowers? Did you see what was happening to Paula Jones? My allegation. Yes. No, not afraid. I just knew what would happen.
Now, you just heard Bill Clinton's accusers, in their own words, describe in graphic detail what they say happened to them. Now, despite all of that, the Democrats, the liberal, destroy Trump media, the mainstream media, they didn't believe them. They attacked them. They discredited these women. And Hillary Clinton, well, she chalked it all up to some bizarre, vast, right-wing conspiracy. Remember this.
The great story here, for anybody willing to find it and write about it and explain it, is this vast right-wing conspiracy that has been conspiring against my husband since the day he announced for president.
Now, this tells you everything you need to know about how Hillary Clinton sees these victims. It's part of a much larger pattern that we've seen over decades. For example, Clinton's 1992 presidential campaign, remember they coined the term bimbo eruptions to describe women who came forward, and there were many, many more. And George Stephanopoulos, he wrote in his memoir that in 1991, Hillary Clinton said, quote, "We have to destroy her," when destroying one of Clinton's accusers. Now, we did reach out to the Clintons for comment about all of this. Of course, they never got back to us. That's not surprising, considering everything that they did, everything the Democrats and the media enabled and covered up. Almost 30 years. The Clintons over these years have been given a free pass by their political party and their friends and their allies in the news media, you know, the ones they colluded with in the last campaign. And up until just a few days ago, the media and Democrats viciously attacking Bill Clinton's accusers. Here's what they said about Clinton's accusers just last year in the 2016 election. Watch this.
A trio of women who say Bill Clinton made unwanted sexual advances in the 80s and 90s. Mr. Clinton denies it. Two of the cases were plagued by factual discrepancies.
When it was Bill Clinton's problem, almost in the moment, Republicans tried to make it an issue, and it didn't work. So why is it going to work 20 years later with his wife? I just don't see it.
And the issue of Bill Clinton's past is that fair game? And it would be if he were running for president, but he isn't. Hillary Clinton is running for president.
The big issue. I would like to apologize to those tramps that have slept with my husband. Maybe she could have said that.
Tramps that slept with my husband? Now, while it's nice to see that some in the press are finally, nearly 30 years later, coming around to acknowledge Clinton's actions, we have to ask, what took you so long? Where were you when these accusers were coming forward? Why did you trash and discredit these women on a regular basis? And I want to tell you another thing. Unlike the rest of the abusively biased news media in this country, I did go down, take this seriously, sat down with them, let them tell their stories before I made a decision in these cases. You know what? Why couldn't the press do the same thing? Here's why. The media has protected Democrats, people like Clinton, by enabling their abusive and predatory behavior for decades. And guess what? Countless women suffered as a result. So this is important as a history lesson. We are, here tonight. Where are all the apologies to those women, the Clinton accusers, attacked by the campaign, by that war room? George Stephanopoulos worked in the war room. James Carville, smeared by Hillary Clinton, discredited by the mainstream media. Isn't it about time they all had their day of reckoning?